to another edition of Screen Preach, where all of your film and television needs are met. I would hope so. Where we talk about movies and television, and books sometimes, and video games sometimes, in the name of the Godfather, the Son of Odin, and the Holy Jedi. Because the cinema is my religion. And that is why we preach about the cinema. Yeah, I'm still trying to work out how to line up my audio and video right now. It's a little different with this setup. I have to crawl under the desk to get in here, you know? So I can't do what I used to and like start it and walk over and do the whole, you know. That's a lot of motorcycles. Holy shit. The whole charter came through. The whole charter. Jax, Clay, Bobby, everybody, Tig, they all just came through. The whole SOA charter, just that whole fucking SoCal fucking thing, just... Alright, let's get to the show, can we? It's episode 52 of Screen Preach. Hey, look, the thing's gone. I took it off. It's funny, too, because I was going to keep it on because I didn't think I had anywhere to really put it. Like, I was going to keep it there just because it kind of goes there. But no, we're not doing that. I got rid of that thing because there was no need for it. I just watched our topic of the episode. I just fresh off the movie, and I'm still, honestly, the reason I'm like a little bit like, where's the showmanship here? Where's the host that we know? I'm still processing this movie. I'm baffled. I'm uncomfortable. I'm angry, but I'm also like, fuck, dude. I'm like, that's just wild, man. It's wild, it's crazy, and it's just, it's so good, dude. Let's obviously go in order this week. Last week I didn't go in order. Let's go in order. I'm gonna do the news first this time, promise. But I just want to do some follow-up. I just had a quick moment of being like, did I actually hit the record button on that phone? Because that was quick, and I don't know if I did. And now that's it. We're going. If I didn't, I'm talking to nothing here, and there's just an audio version. Whatever. Let's go. I just want to follow up on a couple things. So, obviously, we had the finale of The Falcon and Winter Soldier last week. And I was talking with a friend about it, and it made me think. One way they could make Sharon's motives and her switch in tone work is if she's actually a Skrull. That's something I could see them doing. So if you don't know what the whole Skrull thing is that's been being slowly, constructed in the MCU with Captain Marvel was the introduction of the alien race. They're to be big players going forward. I talked last week about how I thought Emilia Clarke might be playing the Skrull Queen. Skrulls are shapeshifters, so it makes us wonder how... Because in the comics, it was a big deal, okay? Secret Invasion, Secret Wars, certain characters that you knew and enjoyed and related to and really started to like ended up being Skrulls in disguise. So this is something to think about for the MCU. Who is a Skrull? And we don't know it. You know what I mean? So if Sharon Carter is a Skrull, and I don't just mean like... She could have been a Skrull the whole time and played an angle with Steve and Sam and everybody and then had her own motives that we never saw and we're just seeing them. Or this is a Skrull version and the real Sharon Carter's who knows, right? It's just a way that might make the whole switcheroo that they did with Sharon work better because right now it's just not working. So I have faith. We got to just see what happens. Obviously, Kevin Feige knows what he's doing, and all the writers and the whole brain trust know what they're doing. And also, I mentioned how Zemo was clearly the one who blew up the truck super soldiers, and I totally forgot that we saw his butler sitting in a car, the old man. That's how we knew it was Zemo behind it. In the moment, I actually literally probably did the same thing other people did. It was like, who's this old guy? I forgot about the butler. That's who that was. That's just a little quick follow-up there I just wanted to bring up. The big thing, obviously, this week was the Oscars. And by that, I mean the semi-large thing. It's not that. It wasn't big. It was the worst recorded viewing of the Oscars thus far in history. A lot of that has to do with COVID, obviously, and the movies we actually saw this year. And some people probably were like, what movies are even in the Oscars? But it's funny, I think I saw actually quite a bit of the movies that were in the Oscars. Now I've just seen another one. I think I'm going to go through here a little bit and do most of them in the coming weeks and months. I want to talk about them and see them. Mostly I want to see them, right? And then my mind's going to be racing with thoughts about them, which is why I come over here and sit in this chair. Getting the chair in here, by the way, is the hardest part of the whole setup. It's a lot of upper body work getting this fucking chair in here. But I did it twice now and will continue to. But the Oscars was interesting for the fact that let's just say how great it is that Chloe Zhao was won Best Director. She's the second only woman in history behind Catherine Bigelow to do that. That's insane. That's an insane fact right there. I was actually like, for some reason I thought someone else won in between, like another woman won in between, but I guess not. That's just crazy. But it totally deserved. Nomadland won Best Picture, Best Oscar. I guess it is the best. Isn't it technically the one they saved for last? So it is the best one. It won Best Oscar. It won Best Picture. Makes sense. In my opinion, I don't know. For me, the Trial of the Chicago 7 was, in my opinion, the best film of last year. Whatever. You could have your own opinions about that, but that's just the one I thought was, I enjoyed it the most, and I just thought it was fantastic. But it actually, I think, didn't win anything. But then again, The Irishman didn't win anything the year before. And that was shocking, too. Whatever. I think it's important to remember just how subjective art is and why these award shows are just a bunch of fucking hooey. They really are. I mean, people didn't even want to watch it. It's still a great achievement in its own right to win an Oscar, of course. But the whole ceremony for it and this whole thing, it's just like, what are we doing here, man? I don't know. A couple other things I saw this week I thought I'd bring up. Toxic fandom, stop what you're doing, okay? There is toxic fandom. And by that I don't mean people who just obsess over something to the point where they like whatever comes out and they're always going to defend it. That's fine. This is when it takes a step too far, okay? And I saw this billboard before it was in the news. I remember seeing it. I do Postmates, so I'm out there all day. And I saw this billboard and I was confused by it. And then a couple days later, everybody was talking about it. A group of Marvel fans put up a billboard in Los Angeles that says, "Bring Tony Stark back to life." Fuck off, okay? Stop. Take it down, okay? These are people who have no respect for what Tony Stark as a character actually did. His sacrifice, I guess they want to just be for shit. That's what they're really saying. They're saying, Tony Stark, fuck your sacrifice and your beautiful arc in the MCU. We just want to fuck with narrative because they have no sense of what good storytelling is if they want this, okay? Nobody's bringing Tony Stark back to life because it would diminish everything that happened in the Infinity Saga with Tony Stark, including his death at the end. Spoilers, but you should have known that by now, because I just said Tony Stark come back to life. So right there, you would have been like, okay, he was dead. So he's got to come back to life in order for this to work for these toxic fans. Just stop, okay? You're not making any sense. Here's the thing about Tony Stark being dead. It is a Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is a superhero universe. Of course, Tony Stark could pop up somewhere. Robert Downey Jr. could pop up somewhere. If the story is effectively moving in a direction that works with the multiverse, as it seems to probably be doing at some point, but don't ever expect Tony Stark to be a protagonist again. Because it at least not in this next saga. Okay, this whole next saga, this next decade, will not. The characters that are gone. Accept it because it works. First of all, it was the reason Endgame was great was because of the endings of certain characters' arcs. But if Tony Stark comes back in, it'll be very tiny. Same thing goes for Chris Evans. So again, with people wanting Chris Evans to come back, I was even for a second like that could work. But no, you know what? Fuck it. He's gone too. Just works better. It's better. It's just better storytelling, man. It's just more better quality. You don't diminish what's been done by making stupid decisions. And I'm not even saying that they would. Kevin Feige's not an idiot. Clearly, look at what he's done. He's not going to do this. Just be happy when you potentially see these characters pop in like a cool little scene moment in the multiverse. Because that's what you're getting, and that's it. And rightfully so. I definitely wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to bring up how we talked about the whole Disney-Sony deal that brings Spider-Man films to Disney Plus after Netflix, right? I also realized that it's possible that hints at Spider-Man's MCU future being more hopeful than we even thought. Because that deal runs till 2026, so what does that mean for Spider-Man in the MCU? Does it mean we can expect to see him until 2026 now in the MCU, potentially? If they have a deal for one thing, then they gotta have a deal for the other thing, right? Meaning Spider-Man pops up again and again, and not just in one more Spider-Man movie. Also, that original contract that Tom Holland just told people that contract that ended with No Way Home when it comes out, Spider-Man No Way Home when it comes out, that's the last appearance he's slated for in his contract to appear in the MCU. But actually also in that contract, he was supposed to appear in another movie. It was a 2-film deal. So, again, me and my friend were talking about it. Where's the other role? Where's the other pop-in? Where's Spider-Man going to pop in besides his third film? And I thought it was going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier. It wasn't. The showrunner, Malcolm Spellman, even said he wanted Spider-Man in the show, and Kevin Feige didn't. He was like, let's take it easy there. We can't do that yet anyway. That's too big or just doesn't work. Maybe it just didn't work storytelling-wise. Probably didn't. But it's interesting to think about. Where is he going to pop in? And now with this 2026 deal for Disney Plus, Sony, Netflix, blah, 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 is he going to pop into more things or have a 4th film? Or, it's just questions. Yeah, so interesting stuff there. Malcolm Spellman also kind of revealed that there are a slate of unannounced MCU projects like that Feige's potentially gearing up to announce. Doesn't surprise me. That universe is constantly, just the whole Captain America 4 thing coming out of nowhere last week, and they just keep getting things and here's the thing, Captain America 4 makes so much sense and will probably happen with Sam Wilson, but last week's news actually wasn't confirmed. Let's also talk about that. I guess I'll talk about that as part of the news. So let's do the news. Let's do the fucking news now. do the news of the week. And we'll start with that. Yeah, it wasn't actually confirmed. You should... for some reason, it seemed like it... The way it came out, it seemed like it definitely was. But I think Spellman was the one who was like... who said that? Did Feige say that? Because you can't take anything seriously unless the man himself says it. That's a direct quote. So, not 100% confirmed. But dude, it seems like an obvious. It just seems like an obvious. Honestly, it seems like an obvious for anyone taking up the mantle of something to have the fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh film in that solo series. So, it was trilogy, it'll be another trilogy, but it'll be the newest protagonist. So Steve Rogers was the first Captain America trilogy. Sam Wilson seems like the obvious second Captain America trilogy. Just like whoever takes up the mantle of Iron Man, don't be surprised when you see an Iron Man 4, but it's not Tony Stark. It makes sense. Thor, Love and Thunder happens to have our original Thor, but Thor is a different kind of character, where it just makes more sense. He's also technically, potentially passing on the mantle to Jane Foster, but that doesn't mean he still won't be Thor. There's been multiple Thors in the comics, so it's a little different. And Thor's a god. He could live for thousands of years. In the comics, he's around for a lot more than other characters because he's just naturally, he just lives longer. That's a little different, but same kind of thing. If someone else is Thor, if Jane Foster gets her own trilogy, it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense if it has the same title. If it's just called Thor and then, a subtitle, but it's not, Chris Hemsworth's Thor. It just makes sense, right? But yeah, Captain America 4 was not actually officially confirmed, but in my opinion, we can probably expect it. In my opinion, we can expect almost anything we're speculating on seeing. Let's just be clear. If you've thought about it, it's probably going to happen at some point now. That's where Marvel is. They finally, for the first time in over a decade, have mostly obviously, control over their entire universe of characters. Mostly. Some hiccups still, but, time will tell on that. If you've thought about it, it's probably in the works in some capacity. This was just in today. Finn Wittrock to star in the Green Lanterns Corp series on HBO Max. HBO Max and their DC shows seem very exciting regardless of how you feel about DC right now, or in general. And he's playing Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is one of the Green Lanterns from the comics. And it seems their approach to Green Lantern at this point is not to focus on one, but on multiple. That's why when they announced this, they announced all the different Green Lanterns that were going to be in it. And now they're doing casting for it. Finn Wittrock, you would know probably most from American Horror Story, because he's been in a few seasons of that. I mean, as soon as I see that face, that's what I think of. And he's playing Guy Gardner. That was literally just in today. Can't wait to see who else they cast. Like Jon Stewart. I don't remember, is he in it? They revealed all the different Green Lanterns that are in it. He's got to be in it. I even think Hal Jordan's in it, right? I don't know. Don't quote me on this. But a few are in it. And I can't wait to see who they keep casting in this series. So that's interesting stuff. Dominique Fishbach joins the next Transformers movie. Okay. Transformers is not something I get super excited about. I'll always say the first Transformers is a classic. It's a good movie. It's a classic. You can always watch that first one. As a series, as a franchise, hate that word. It doesn't nearly compete or hold up in any capacity for me. There are plenty of big fans of that full series, so I'm not, judging you or anything. A lot of wires on the floor. What else? There's a World of Darkness universe coming to streaming. Yeah, coming to TV, film. So I guess that means TV shows and movies with Eric Heiserer, Christine Boylan, and the Witcher's Hive Mind. It's quite a group of people working on this. This just struck me as very interesting because I have no idea what this is, but all I saw was it's a world of vampires, werewolves, that kind of. It seems like it's a popular comic book universe, graphic novel universe, something like that. I just want to see what ends up being this World of Darkness coming to cinema. I'm all for anything. I just love that shit, fantasy, sci-fi kind of stuff, man. So that's interesting to me. Had to bring it up. Posted this, but of course we'll talk about it here. Marvel's Hawkeye series, which is expected to come in the fall or winter, I would think, of this year. There was a set photo showing Jeremy Renner in his new costume for the series, and it is comic accurate. There was another photo in the past month, or I think it was a month ago, maybe. Haley Steinfeld, who's playing Kate Bishop, again, passing of the mantle. Plenty of that going to be happening. Quite a lot going forward. And she's in a comic accurate costume as well. Cool to finally actually see Clint in that comic accurate costume, because up till now he's kind of just had, there's been some purple, very lightly, mostly red I think I've seen, but this is cool to see. So yeah, it just makes me curious because Sam's Captain America costume is fire, and it's very comic accurate, like spot on almost. So they might even be doing even better with the comic accurate costumes. Good, like they might really just be pushing that going forward. Seems the case here. So exciting in that regard. And I already mentioned Captain America 4, right? Yeah. Titans Season 3 casts Vincent Carthizer as Scarecrow. He's an actor you would know from Mad Men, probably, mostly. He's playing Scarecrow. I could see that. I could totally see that, too. I'm planning on watching Titans. I hear it's okay, but I'll still watch it. Marvel's Kevin Feige. He brought up his thoughts on Chloe Zhao winning the Oscar, and he cracked some jokes, or he was being semi-serious, and I just thought it was so savage of him to say these things, and I just wanted to bring it up. I loved it. He was talking about how like Eternals is going to be the next best thing you've seen in the MCU, and how it could potentially. He was jokingly saying it's going to win the Oscar for Best Picture. Dude, I have to bring this up. Even if my computer fucks with me a little bit, I have to quote it directly. Because he said it and it made me giddy. I think it had to do with he was hinting at something. Yeah, he was hinting at how big things are going to get. He said, "I'm excited to answer your questions about the future. I'd also like to give you a few quotes about when Eternals wins Best Picture, and when Avengers 5 is the biggest movie of all time." That just fucking gets me hyped, dude. He's talking about, he's just calling that out right now, like Avengers 5 isn't even something that's been announced, and he's just like, yeah, it's gonna be the biggest movie of all time. Can't even imagine what they have in store for that. We won't see it either for a while. I don't think they're planning on doing that until things have been really built to. Like, I don't think it's like before, it's not going to be an Avengers movie at the end of this many films, an Avengers movie at the end of this many films. They're actually going to build to one big one, maybe, at the end of everything in this saga. maybe. Because you know why it works too in this saga? Things are just bigger in general, it's more characters, more storylines, it's just more expanded. There's a lot of little stuff that will feel like mini Avengers movies to the point where we won't feel like we're not getting Avengers movies. They'll probably do a Young Avengers thing, they'll probably do an X-Men thing, an X-Men teaming up with somebody thing, and then all the characters that pop into their own, we got the Guardians and Thor, we got Thor and the Guardians. It's never going to feel like, it just feels like the Avengers story all the time now, and that's why it works. They don't have to make Avengers 5, 6, 7. They could just build to 5. And that would be crazy how big that's going to be. Or I just can't even imagine what's in store. And Eternals will be the boldest film, I'm sure, with Chloe Zhao and her vision. I'm sure it will be something, really. Really something. What else? Ironheart has tapped Shanika Hodge as the head writer for the Marvel Studios series on Disney Plus. Yeah, I put it on a story. But yeah, I didn't know who she was, but she actually has some interesting credits. I think she worked on the Snowpiercer series, not the movie, the series. And she's really an educator, and she's actually a poet too. Marvel is Feige. They're very, very effectively specific about whose vision is behind every story. I'm so looking forward to that too. There's the possibility Ironheart might be 6 episodes. They announced. That hasn't been confirmed yet either, though. It's floating around that Ironheart's going to be 6 episodes total. Godzilla vs. Kong director Adam Wingard in talks to return for a new legendary MonsterVerse movie. So we'll see what that ends up being, and if he actually ends up being hired for it. House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones prequel, has started production. They're table reading. They're getting ready to go. They're gearing up. And I wonder how... it's funny to have the HBO president literally say, I don't think Game of Thrones will be as big as, like, Marvel or Star Wars or DC. So it means they're taking a smaller approach to it. But it's still got quite a lineup of content coming, There's a few spin-offs. I mean, I brought up the announcements of some of the new ones, recently. And that's 3 more on top of this, and I think there's even another one. So, I mean, it's still big, relatively. I'm just going to be excited to return to that universe when it finally comes out. And that is the news of the week. And yeah, it wasn't actually I thought last week had quite an interesting, bunch of updates in comparison to this week. But let's talk about our topic of the day here, of the week. And that is Promising Young Woman, which is something I'm still processing, okay? I'll say right off the... I don't want to say right off the bat one more fucking time. I feel like I always start with that. It's not right off the bat. It's left off the mitt. How about that? I don't even think it's a baseball reference when they say right off the bat. I don't know. But I'm going with baseball. And left off the mitt, the film sets itself up in the opening image for what kind of movie it's going to be, okay? But nobody can prepare you, definitely didn't prepare me for the twists and turns that come at the middle and at the end of this fucking film, okay? I just didn't see it coming. I should have seen the first one coming because it was so obvious a setup, like, not obvious, but like, it was too happy, a calm before the storm thing going on. Things were normalizing, and then it had to have done what it did, right? Because it was really what it was the reaffirmation moment for her character, and I'll talk about it. But I think that opening image really sets up the idea of like this being a story of a woman taking on the patriarchy of America in a sense, right? Because it flip flops the commonly used male gaze that we have seen for decades in cinema. This, the male gaze, of course, I think I've talked about it before on the show because other films have played with it. But the male gaze is the objectifying of a woman on screen or in a canvas or whatever. The camera literally acts as a device of objectification and done to a woman, and that is the male gaze. In this case, writer-director Emerald Fennell plays with the idea of flip-flopping that, using kind of like a female gaze. We open with guys moving their hips and dancing in the club, and it's kind of a flip-flop play on the male gaze to imply that this is a story about predator and prey in a way, but it's flipping because our hero is the predator hunting scummy scum men, right? So of course, she's this vigilante of feminine justice, right? And that most people probably know that going in. It's the premise of this film is that she's this hero hero for women everywhere, and at a time that could not have been more relevant. Let's just point that out. The film could not be more relevant than it is right now in this day and age in 2021. I mean, it has relevance for all of history and correcting things, but it's most, of course, extremely relevant for now with the movement with the time that we came out of with the Me Too movement, right? Or came out of, we're still in it, definitely the most relevant now. So it's the perfect film to be coming out. And for some reason, I thought she actually is this, right off the bat, kind of psycho who kills the guys. Because the first person we see her trap, we don't see what happens. They cut away, and I thought that maybe in her book, right? She has this book and a list of names and scumbags she's trapped and caught, right? And then she would mark the number, right? The number of men, but she would do it, one of them in red, and then she'd do in blue. And for some reason, I thought red meant she killed them, and blue meant she gave them a warning, because then she does it again with another guy and gives him a warning. That's what I thought the approach was, but it's actually not that at all. And thank God too, because that it would be harder to empathize if she was just a straight out psycho, right? Obviously, and I knew that wasn't going to be the direct approach, but I did think she was like fucking going all out on these people. From what I saw, when I just saw a trailer or whatever, that's what I thought. But no, she's actually a very genuinely likable and just good kind of. She's very conflicted, obviously traumatized person, tortured and weighted. There's a lot of, like, I guess guilt probably comes into it because she kind of blames herself a little bit for not, she's kind of, everything she's doing when we meet her is her way of trying to make up for it. And she even says it, I think, at some point in the film. She says, I'm trying to fix it, or I'm trying to make it right. But her mission that she's on is really destroying her chances of having a normal life, as we keep seeing, and moving on and finding her own love and just kind of growing. And she She can't live properly because of what happened. And of course, we don't know what happened. We learn very effectively and naturally what happened. But right off the bat, I'm thinking the obvious, something happened to her, and she's out for revenge on all men doing this kind of thing. But no, it's actually better than that. It was somebody she really cared about that it happened to. And we slowly learn the circumstances of it and how it went down and the people involved. And it's just fucking terrible, man. It is brutal to keep learning more about that. And then to see people try and defend it and cover it up and hide it and forget. This is the big thing, is this idea of forgetting and dismissing when these things happen, which happens in reality. It couldn't be more on point with things that actually happen, which is why when I keep thinking about the ending of the film, it's so realistic, right? Of course, we get that movie ending that we need. We need the movie ending that we get. The moment of yes, right? But it doesn't come easily, and you're uncomfortable with how you get it. Always remember spoilers, okay? Always remember spoilers, because I like to bring it up, and because you're going to get my full reaction. I'll get to that. I don't think we jump right to that. But another thing that I really liked was the way she strategically traps people. And we see hints of it in her hobby, right? It's kind of like her thing to do in general. She goes out and traps these guys. But there's a clear main villain, if you will, that she's really after. And I wasn't even, I didn't think that. I honestly didn't think there was, because it turns into a really, like, actually emotional, like, drama. It's not just like some straight thriller. It gets really, you feel kind of every emotion in this. I mean, it turns into a love story at the middle, and then it turns into a story of betrayal, and then it turns into a tragedy at the end. But it's like that main plot where she's going after the one guy that she really has, all these other guys that she goes, it's all just like it's like working up to the main hunt, if you will. And the way that we learn more and more about the how do we put it, the incident, the more we learn about the incident from her past, the way we slowly learn more and more as we meet the people involved in some way, shape, and form. And I think the most subtly important one is the lawyer that she visits. Right off the bat, too. Right off the bat. Oh my god. Another thing, her marking down people, I love the transformation of that into the main five that she's going at, the main revenge, the main hunt, and we get it structured that way. I love it. With the title cards, now we're getting the full pink, the big pink 1, and then the big pink 2, and then the big pink 3, all the way to 4, and then the slash through is the victory at the end. Like, just, God, just some of those little creative choices. I love that shit. I eat that shit up. That makes movies for me sometimes. And so, again, everybody, there were multiple people kind of, I guess I'll just break it down a little bit. So her friend Nina Fisher, you know, in med school with her, she was more popular than Cassie, our protagonist, Cassie, played by Carey Mulligan. but they were close as hell, right? And Nina is taken advantage of when she's drunk one night at a party by a group of guys, led by one guy, Al Monroe. This is the guy. We learn that he's the hunt that she's really after, the revenge that she's really after. And that guy and his group of friends, they recorded it, and then it got tossed around from school to the justice system like it was nothing. And all those moments are super important because they literally pull from reality, just reflection of reality better than you could. It's spot on. These things, they happen in reality, and it really makes you just like, it makes everybody stop for a second and just, you better think twice about what you're saying, about how the girls, they wanted it too. No, you need to really evaluate your thoughts and opinions about something like this, because it pulls right from things that would happen in real life, things that people do in these moments, things, the law finding ways to manipulate it, people turning a blind eye to it because of like this idea of crying wolf, or this idea of like, she was a whore, or it's just all this shit that's like constantly thrown at these situations to kind of justify it. And it's terrible, man. And all these people that did these things they're as culpable as the main guy who did what he did himself. And first of all, Carey Mulligan's performance and the way that she traps everybody, and her dialogue, and the way that it's so fucking good. But the way that she traps everybody, that was my favorite, because she kind of gives them directly back the very thing that they did, right? So the first person that she takes down, she does it in a way where she gets the same thing done to her, literally. The second one, the Dean, right? Dean Walker, put her in the exact situation that Nina's mother would have been in, and make her try and see how she should have acted as a teacher, as a guardian of the students, as a person of the school should have acted in that moment, instead of what she did, which was wrong, justifying it, trying to label it as boys being, I don't know if it was boys being boys, or if it was like no, there was no proof, or whatever it was, right? So she gives her own medicine, a taste of her own medicine. But like I said, the lawyer was the most like low key important, because it was the first one that made Cassie reflect on what she's actually doing and how it's affecting her to do all this shit. Because yes, there's purpose for it. There's purpose in it. But it's also like, it's tearing away at her to the point where she feels guilty. She feels regret. She feels a sense of disillusionment, feeling displaced in the world, and not having any reason for being in it even. I think the whole point of the poetic, the film was very poetic. The whole nature of the ending was like, she felt that she should have been there, or she almost feels like it should have happened to her as much as it should have happened to Nina, or she should have been there to help, or she shouldn't be here now because Nina's not here now. Literally, the whole ending kind of implies that she had planned on it kind of always ending the way it ends, almost. So that, there's a deep poetic nature to it. And then, where was I? Yeah, so but the lawyer really, the lawyer's torn up with guilt over this whole thing. She didn't have to do anything to him. He was already suffering from what he did. And it made her kind of reflect on how she's suffering for everything she's doing too. That her mission is it's a means to an end. It's going to end only potentially a few ways. I just never saw it actually coming. And the way it's paced is so well done, because you sit with it for kind of a minute there. And I'll talk about that now. You expect her to just win, and instead she doesn't just win. She dies. And she doesn't just die, she's murdered by the guy she's trying to take down. And I just couldn't believe that, but really what I couldn't believe is how long you sit with it and watch this fucking motherfucker and his friend just get away with it, and just dispose of her body, and just kind of go through all the stages of being two fucking pieces of shit who get away with murder, literally. But also figuratively, they got away with the initial shit, right? And to clarify, Nina, she was raped by these guys, and then it destroyed her to the point where here's the thing, they don't actually say what happens, but they don't say what happens. It's actually another really good creative choice, but it's very much in play. Nina killed herself, it seems. It must be that. I mean, Jesus. Which just makes it even more tragic. But, so in a way, Cassie killed herself too. She almost knew her mission would potentially end the way it did. And it's her joining Nina in the fight, and joining Nina in the end, but doing it her way, doing it the way that it should have been done. Really giving it to him, taking him out. The thing is, you could see it. You could see it as Cassie wanting to just kill this fucking guy, but that was never really. I think her whole midpoint, calm moment where she's going through change and growth and finding love with this guy Ryan, right? Who we meet this guy Ryan, who's he's set up as the opposite of all these other guys. He's the good guy, right? He's the guy who's not like these other guys, is not going to be like these other guys. And she falls in love with this guy, and she's growing from it, and she drifts from her original path. And for a while there, she's believing that it's for the better, because she gets to have a life now instead. And I think that whole sequence was her also realizing she could take a different approach to the justice that Nina deserves. So I think her decision, even in the end, to make it a thing about justice and sending them away to prison and all that, I don't know if that was her initial plan. I think if it was the Cassie we met in the very beginning, she could have just killed that fucking Al Monroe piece of shit. But she grew throughout the film, and her arc allowed her to change to a point where she took a different approach to it. A question of morality was a big theme. It came into it. And the approach that she was going to take to it I think, shifted. And then we have the two we have the end, which was a huge, like, shock. I don't know if it's a twist, yes, but it's it's just a huge, plot point that you just, it's the end, really. It's just, you don't see it coming at all, man. I didn't see that coming at all. The way it's done, too, it's the whole killing of her is a long take of it, and it's just brutal, and we don't need to see, but we do. That's the thing, like, we need to see all of that, and the disposing of her, and the whole, just, like, and almost making it seem like the guys are gonna win and just go on and they're gonna live happily ever after. It's like, we need to sit with that, and here's why, because that happens. That actually fucking happens to girls, where they get no justice at all, and the guys get to just live their life. That's why we need to sit with it for the time that we do, and it's agonizing and uncomfortable to sit with it, but it's totally necessary. So we get the first twist. That was the second twist. We get the first twist, though, is even almost more heartbreaking, because it's kind of like I said, a reaffirmation, because it puts Cassie back on her path and on her mission, but it's a tragic way to be put back on. It's a heartbreaking way to be put back on her path. We learn she's able to get a video of the incident, something she didn't have before. And in that video, the good guy that she's dating and falling in love with, Ryan, was there. That was fucking tough, too, because that's like, Jesus Christ, she can't even trust this guy. She can't even, there's nothing for her here. There's nothing for her except what she has to do. She has to do this. And it's sad, because I think in that moment, too, she knows that regardless of outcome, this is my only purpose. There's no other life after, there's no living a normal life for me. I have to just... and it's heartbreaking that Ryan was there, and he just and watched it happen, like, just, and that is a moment that it's a twist, and it's a reaffirmation. It sets her back on. It sets her in motion to go after the guy. I could talk. This was really something. I didn't even rate it yet. I rate pre-record, but I'm gonna go. It's gonna be a fresh one right here, right during the recording. I could really talk about this for a while. How long have I been talking about it? Oh wow, it's a long episode. Fuck. I can't seem to not do long episodes anymore. I just want to get that 35-minute one again. I don't know why, but. And then the end, you're waiting for that ending, because you're like, this can't be the way it ends. They can't just win. And it's so good the way that in death, she beats them. Because she set it all up beforehand, almost knowing that there was a good chance she might not make it out. I don't think she completely intended to die. But the way that it almost seems like she did. She finds a way to get. It's almost like I think her death was part of her fucking plan in a way. I don't know, man, but she's definitely sent out the video. She definitely put all these pieces in place to trap her last trap, and her last trick was the best one, because it was in depth. It's just, it was really good, man. It was great. Let's say this was a great movie. It's really uncomfortable, and it sucks that she dies. Like, that's what I was like, I don't like the ending. I can't. This sucks. But they give you that little bit, and she went, like, she texts. She has scheduled texts coming in to Ryan. She's like, you thought this was the end? Well, it isn't. You didn't really think this was the end, did you? It is now at this wedding for the fucking dickhead fucking villain guy, and and from Cassie and Nina was how she ended it, which makes me think even more she planned on dying almost. But yeah, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that the performances were fantastic, but obviously it was really Carey Mulligan all the way. But I think I gotta give credit to Emerald Fennell, the writer-director, because the way she shot it, the way she structured it, her thematic approach to it was really... That was just... It was very, very resonant. I'm going to be thinking about this movie for a long time. I'm going to be watching it again. And yeah, I'm going to rate it right here and now on the show. I'm going to give it a... I can't fucking... Yeah, honestly, it's been a while since we've had the really great one, right? I haven't gone in the 9s in a while. I'm going straight, flat out 9.0 out of 10 for this movie. It was really great. It was really great. Yeah, and that is Promising Young Woman. I think the title is... Even the title... it's like... Promising Young Woman means like what? Like, she promises to give everybody what they deserve. I don't know. Yeah, there's a parallel. Obviously, it means one thing, but it could mean another thing. There's a lot of multiple meanings for the title. Great fucking movie. If you haven't seen it yet, you gotta see it. And that's all I have to say about that. That's all I have to say about that. That's it. Now let's do Donut's passed out. She's not my co-host anymore. Let's do a fun fact of the week. Let's do a movie fact. Sometimes the facts are not completely lined up thematically. Something pops into my head and I go with it. This one actually kind of has similar, but not really. But I just thought of this movie because it's something that was in my head a little bit this week, and so I thought, let's talk about something interesting about that movie. For the 1994 film Leon the Professional, a lot of precautions needed to be taken regarding the character of Matilda, played by Natalie Portman. Given the premise and intense context within the film, Portman's parents were very hands-on in decisions made regarding the character their daughter was going to be playing. They were initially very against Portman even taking the role to begin with. Portman was an 11-year-old girl who had to grapple with the violence and sexualization being portrayed. But Portman read the script and was moved to tears. She had to have the role, as she puts it, but her parents were so not convinced. Basically, she said she was fighting with her parents a lot before they finally allowed her to do the role. But they also played a role in the creative decisions. Like, Matilda's decision in the film to quit smoking was because of Portman's parents. Portman was allowed 5 cigarettes to be shown in her hand throughout the entire film and never inhaling a single breath of smoke. If you watch closely, you'll never actually see Matilda exhale a bit of smoke from a cigarette put to her lips. Thus, the character of Leon scolds Matilda for smoking, leading to her eventual quitting later on in the film. Makes sense, considering how controversial this premise actually is in general. Nonetheless, it is one hell of a cinematic achievement, and Natalie Portman is incredible. Let's do our poll, our debate, our question. Last week it was who was your favorite action hero in cinema. There was a fun debate this week. Yay! Let's keep that going, guys. This week I asked, what is the best thriller of the last decade, 2010s to now? What is the best thriller in your opinion? For me, it's Scorsese's Shutter Island, but it's hard to even pick. I only picked that because Scorsese's my favorite filmmaker of all time, and he made that thriller in this decade, and yes, it was fucking great with DiCaprio. But you could pick from a bunch. There were a bunch. Gone Girl, Nightcrawler, Prisoners, Black Swan, Get Out. Even 10 Cloverfield Lane felt like a thriller. Parasite, which is a masterpiece, even has thriller vibes. So what is it, in your opinion? And here's the quote of the week. Again, I didn't think I lined up thematically, but I kind of did a little bit. Does anybody actually know what the official motto of the state of New York is on the official seal of the state of New York? Does anybody? Do you know? Excelsior. Yeah, that's right. Look it up. Excelsior. Not that I give a fuck about football or about your superstitions, but if it's me reading the signs, you don't send the Eagles guy whose favorite motto is Excelsior to a fucking Giants game, especially when he's already in a legal situation. Name that movie. It's one of my favorites of all time. One of the best performances of the last forever. Dude, this is great, by the way. It feels more official, doesn't it? Just the mic. I do seem to hurt my ears, though, doing all this stuff. I'm closer to it, and I feel it in my eardrums. Maybe I should just stop having it so close to me. That's it. That was a good episode. I had fun talking about this movie because it was one of the best movies. Yeah, it was one of the best movies from last year, and that's why it was at the Oscars too. I'm glad I bought it. I own it. It's part of my awesome collection, and I'm glad it is. As usual, we always shout out to our patrons here, the people who help support this thing here, and so as usual, shout out to Billy Thomas, Jessica Murphy, Michael Morganti, Doolin Morganti, Tijan Construction, and Linda Morganti. Yeah, so follow me. You know where. You know the name. It's Screen Preach Podcast. It's just at Screen Preach. You can follow me at the Benji. You definitely want to see episodes of the show or other content. You got to subscribe to BMS Studios on YouTube. I always urge people to check out my website when you get a chance. benmorgantistory.com for my written work, which is what I actually do. Working on my 8th project right now, mulling over a 9th, mulling over 2 collaborations. So, yeah, it's busy a little bit. I say mulling over 2 collaborations. Just got word this week about a potential collaboration with a friend, so that would be the second, because I'm also thinking about another one with another friend. That's benmorgantistory.com. And, of course, become part of the gang, become a Screen Preacher, and join the, Patreon, patreon.com/preacher. Thanks for listening and watching. Come back next week. Maybe I'll poll it this week and see what you guys think I should talk about next week. Always fun.